Howdy, folks! We're back again to talk about the prize ship for the Collective OP Month 2 event, and this is the USS Raven. It is an Aerie-class ship, and we're going to talk a little bit about the ship, as well as the cards inside. I was meh about the ship, but oh my gosh, will you be super impressed about the cards. And we're going to get started on it as soon as we cue the intro. So here are the ship cards. The ship itself is an extremely light ship. It's cheaper in points than any of the fighter resources, which is like 20 points, and it takes far less damage to destroy one of these things. I looked at the ship and I was honestly kind of disappointed. I was hoping it was a Delta Flyer, honestly. I was like, please, please. And when it wasn't, and I saw these stats, I was like, oh, that's not that great. I mean, you look at how fragile the ship is, and the fact that all it can do is like scan and evade. I was kind of disappointed. Like, there aren't a lot of slots. It's a very limited kind of ship. So there's the ship for you. It is what it is. But if you don't know your Star Trek lore or aren't familiar with the USS Raven, the USS Raven is actually the ship that 7 of 9's parents used to go and study the Borg. The Hansons were like the foremost, I guess, humans to study the Borg in such detail and depth. So that is actually why she ended up out in the freaking Delta Quadrant as far as out she was because her parents went to study the Borg. And because of that, you have some really interesting, characterful cards in this pack, which I have to admit I'm really very endeared to. They are Magnus Hansen, who is the captain on this ship. He is pretty stellar. I look at this card and I'm like, a 2-point captain who is free to equip onto a Federation ship, which the USS Raven is, but you can pretty much pick him, stick him on any number of excellent ships out there. And he has an elite talent, which is freaking stunning. He's so cheap. Captain Skill 4, elite talent, and, his ability, not that bad either. I think that there are some really interesting options here. And, I think that everyone is kind of skewed towards this very heavy, Alpha Strike, high command skill kind of meta when it comes to playing Federation. And they've overlooked some of the great options they have at the lower skill points, which you can actually help bump up with the participation prizes that are now available to all of us here. Now this captain is an independent, but you don't have to pay any faction penalties for using him. Erin Hansen, his wife, is also independent. You do have to obviously pay faction penalty for her because she doesn't have the stipulation on her card, but holy smokes, do I love this ability. I mean, yeah, okay, 3-point discard. Technically, it's a 4-point discard if you play her on anything that isn't an independent ship. So, yeah, it is what it is, but being able to look at your opponent's dial is freaking incredible. Like, when you need to make that move, you stick her on a Fed ship or whatever ship, because she's indie, and you use her. That in and of itself is it's terrific, and I think that it offers a lot of flexibility. I talk about this game as something that is beyond a deck builder's game, because I think movement is such a huge part of this game. And being able to know what your opponent is doing, given that there's a bluffing element in this game, is a huge, huge boon. Yeah, it's a 4-point upgrade, or that's a discard, but if you do take her on, I don't know, say a Jem'Hadar ship or Shroud, you don't even have to do that. Just saying. So there we go for that. You also have these really incredibly terrific cards that are Federation based. Now, this is the thing I really like about this pack, is that it actually mixes Federation cards with independent cards. But let's look at the first tech slot, and that is Reinforced Structural Integrity. And I think for 5 points, this tech upgrade is pretty freaking incredible. But you know, the fact that you have to put on the Raven, it's a meh. For 10 points on any other ship, though, I think you might be able to justify it. I think if you took one of the independent flagship cards and bumped that tech upgrade down to a 4, you could really easily justify that. I also feel similarly about the multi-adaptive shield. I think that there are some really interesting ways to play with, like the fact that they've kind of said this is a Federation upgrade only. I think that, I don't know, kind of reinforces my Star Trek Attack Wing worldview when things are limited to a specific faction because you cannot cross the faction. What I think is probably the best card in the pack is the research mission card. And I think I love it so much because I have ranted and raved about, you guys have heard me rant and rave about the 5-point discards and how I don't understand why elite talents are 5 points and you discard them, and it hurts me in the heart and the soul to have to do that. This is a 2-point independent, so technically 3 points if you put it on anything else. Discard, well, not even a discard, it's a 2-point disable that is an elite talent. Like, where can you get that? And if you take a faction fleet captain card with this card, you get it for free. And if you take the one that, you take it with any of the captains that allow you to take some free actions of some sort, and to remove the disabled token on this thing is not going to be hard. But holy smokes, can you really play? You can really play with the defense dice on this ship. And I think that's all it was intended to do. The whole pack is obviously very defensive, very strategic. It's not going to put out a lot of damage. It's kind of a soak. I like to think of it as a kind of a soaking ship. I wouldn't necessarily think that this would replace Fed Fighters if you had 20 points to burn in a list. But I think that there are some really interesting upgrades in this pack that could go in other places. Specifically, I'm really thinking about the Hansons. I think that they can do some really interesting things in a whole bunch of other fleets. I think as an independent card especially, there are a lot of options for them. I don't know how I feel about crossing the fluff and throwing them on all sorts of weirdness. I don't know how I feel about seeing Magnus Hansen on a Rodian ship. Who knows? He's scientist, and you know how they're all scientists will do anything for the pursuit of knowledge, blah 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 blah. And that's kind of how they depicted them. A little bit in Star Trek, that's normally how they depict scientists in Star Trek, which is really ironic. But I think that as a whole, there's a lot of potential in these upgrade cards. The ship is a take it or leave it kind of ship. I think it's a cool ship to have. I don't know if I would ever play it as a Raven. I might, I don't know, figure something else out for it. But the upgrade cards are definitely something a lot of players will find some great room for in their fleets should they win it. So that's what I think about this pack. Let me know in the comments what you think about the pack. What you might think, you do with any of the cards in this pack, because I'm always interested, and I've seen this in all of the Fleet Captain comments, which I absolutely adore, by the way. I love seeing what people are thinking about when they look at these upgrades, because there is a lot of stuff that I'm not even thinking about when I build this stuff together. If you haven't seen any of the Fleet Captain upgrade cards, by the way, you can just click the little box down below. You can check that out there, and you can also check out the blind boosters if you haven't already. I've done all the previews for those as well. They're just down below. Also, if you could hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it, and subscribe to my channel for more Star Trek Attack Wing goodness. Until next time, I will see you soon.